And he responded by saying simply, JD Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others.
The world owes thanks to the new pope in town, as tragically American as he may be. After all, this dude, with all his midwestern-accented holiness, actually called JD Vance, the patron saint of punchable opinions, out on his incessant BS, sharing an article titled JD Vance is Wrong on the most serious, respectable, and official medium of all time, i.e. X, once upon a time, Twitter, now owned by a certain outer space denizen. The now Pope Leo XIV effectively shut up the Catholicism cosplayers. The matchup is downright ridiculous. Vance, who calls himself a Catholic, somehow managed to bring harm to not just one, R.I.P. Pope Francis, but two popes in the short period since he cursed the land with his political presence. Sure, the offense to the Pope may not be fatal, but it's certainly mental, and we can tell the Pope already had enough. By the way, letting you know that if you've ever wanted to flee America because JD Vance gave a TED Talk about turning back the Enlightenment, but love Target and bagels too much, you should go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and comment your favorite JD Vance quote that aged like mayonnaise. Because this is the kind of thing we do here. Just picture this. Vatican City, golden under the Roman sun, resplendent in marble and mercy. A calm breeze ruffles the papal robes of Pope Leo XIV, a man who's been dubbed Da Pope, and the first Chicago-style Pope. Meanwhile, somewhere deep in Ohio, JD Vance is holding a town hall next to a Chick-fil-A, ranting about how immigrants are actually liberal sleeper agents sent here to take American jobs and cook better food. And that, dear viewers, is where our holy face-off begins.
But there's this old school, and I think it's a very Christian concept, by the way, that you love your family, and then you love your neighbor, and then you love your community, and then you love your fellow citizens in your own country, and then after that, you can focus and prioritize the rest of the world.
Wake up, babe. New Americanized Christian lore just dropped. Let's take a moment to contemplate. Does our local Reverend Red Hat realize that his mouth is making movements, producing sounds that may or may not have an impact on living beings? Our vote is no, since Vance seems too far gone on the trust fund patriot path to do any kind of realizing. JD Vance is the kind of politician who talks about biblical values, but seems to have Ed his way to only the parts of the Bible that involve smiting. He's like if Leviticus had a podcast and sold bone broth. Fresh off a Fox News set and clutching a theology degree from the University of Zero seminary experience, Vance unveiled his latest theological brainchild, the America First edition of the Ordo Amoris, lovingly misread from Aquinas and mangled just enough to justify cutting off humanitarian aid while polishing his halo. According to our St. Grievance of Ohio, the Christian order of love begins with self, ends with self, and detours briefly through campaign donors. Love your family first, he said, then maybe your community, and only after you've personally solved inflation, potholes, and the opioid crisis, consider someone else. Convenient how the poor, the foreign, and the suffering are always a few rungs too far down the ladder to reach. We're not brave enough to call this theology. It's nationalistic feng shui, wrapped in the usual JD-flavored hot air. You see, JD's version of love comes with a gated driveway and a passport stamp quota, and he speaks as if divine charity is a trickle-down affair. First feed Ohio, then maybe, someday, feed the world. But only if it's politically profitable. Honestly, if JD Vance wants to preach the gospel, he should try reading past the table of contents. Until then, it might be wise to keep the cable appearances to political fiction and leave Christian ethics to someone who doesn't treat the Summa Theologiae like an ideological vending machine. If love is ordered like this, God help whoever's last.
Yeah. And Vance put out a tweet where he says Christian theology could justify turning away migrants or strangers in need because first must come care for your own family.
Someone needs to tell Vance that making a less than impressive attempt to steal the jobs of actual theologians who've, dedicated their lives to their study and know what they're talking about is a way worse offense than what he dreams up immigrants to be doing. Is that really how you're going to play, Mr. Vice President? That's not very American of you. He claims to stand for the forgotten American. But here's the thing. He spent more time defending billionaires and bots than actual families. His immigration policy could be summarized as build a wall, then build a second wall behind it, then maybe a third. Just no brown people, okay? None. Nada. We want to say that it's impressive that Vance, who only converted as a Catholic in 2019, has such a deep passion for Christian theology. But that would be an utter lie, since the hillbilly VP doesn't have the faintest idea of what Christianity even is.
I don't want to speak for him, but I think he sees the United States is headed in the wrong direction in terms of immigration. That this is a total injustice. These are people.
Now you might think that Vance's opinions are being misconstrued, and that mindless liberals are simply unjustly berating the poor VP. But even Pope's own brother agrees that Leo XIV doesn't agree with Trump 2.0 bully gangs policies. And that's phrasing it in the gentlest way possible. Yes, we know wearing red hats in the scorching Texan sun makes MAGA fanatics' brains a little too tender. We're treading as carefully as possible. For the average brain cell owner, of course, John Prevost's assessment seems like common sense. Because it is. But still, there's a need to dig into what he means. This may sound incredibly complex to Trump's trumpets and the like, but immigrants are indeed people. And people deserve basic decency, which is to not be hunted and deported. But what do we know? We just have to place our trust in JD Vance and co., aka Appalachia's top contenders for prehistoric horrors, and right? It should be noted that Pope Leo XIV is no political novice. Since ascending to the papacy, he's made it a habit to call out greed, xenophobia, and, although indirectly, politicians who use Jesus as a bodyguard while kicking the poor in the shins, making war while using religion as a crutch. And so, naturally, JD Vance, a man whose concept of Christian charity begins and ends with retweeting Jordan Peterson, was a logical target of Pope's disapproval.
Doesn't matter where they're born, they are people first. And so they need to be treated as people first.
If anyone decides to make a petition that demands a nationwide apology to John Prevost, please share it in the comments, because America seriously does need to apologize to this poor man. He had to endure such a headache to spell it out to Team Orange's Ohio division. The no-brainer that, yes, these are living individuals that need to be treated as such. You can see the incredulity dawn on his face that he has to explain the most fundamental concepts of governance to the crowd. You know, we get it now. The new pope being a Chicago dweller may sound like a fever dream, but it seems being saintly is a family trait. No joke. Nobody else would have the patience to say something like this.
Well, he's attacked, President Trump and JD Vance on certain things and hasn't attacked Democrats on other things. And
our eyes are shedding tears, truly. Oh, what injustice. The big bad pope has attacked sweet, innocent JD and his boss, Donnie. How could this have happened? Why did no one protect these blameless souls? We're sure Pope ran after the two with his papal ferula, threatening to beat them up with it. At least, this is what the situation sounds like from Vance's description. This meanie pope dared to condemn America's leaders. They were just looking out for themselves, protecting themselves against the terrifying migrants who came to the tiny little country of the United States to find a living? Huh? No, they must have some unfathomable, sinister intentions. Like maybe supporting billionaires who munch away on the planet.
My response to this is it's very hard to fit a 2,000-year-old institution into the politics of 2025 America. I try not to play the politicization of the Pope game.
Ah yes, Senator JD Vance, the Ohio holy warrior, theologian emeritus, and part-time sommelier of Vatican politics, has once again descended from his mountaintop of populist enlightenment to bless us with his divine hot take on the papacy. In a bold act of Christian humility, Vance let us know he's praying for the Pope. Yes, despite the Pope having the audacity to speak about things other than tax cuts and border walls, JD bravely soldiers on, rosary in hand, presumably muttering Hail Marys between cable news hits. Now, don't be fooled. JD tries not to politicize the Pope, which is why he went on national radio to do exactly that, but in a godly, unbothered tone, like a man who's been slightly inconvenienced by the Son of God being woken. He scoffs at the media for asking about Don. How dare they, during the papal press conference, because the real story is how they don't understand the Catholic Church. You see, JD and Hugh Hewitt, two men who view transubstantiation and tax reform with equal reverence, really get it. They went to church in Virginia once, guys. That's basically seminary.
I think the U.S.
law
Conference
enforcement?
of Catholic Bishops has frankly not been a good partner in common sense immigration enforcement that the American people voted for.
And let's not forget Vance's favorite theological insight, that the church is bigger than politics. A sentence he repeats like a bumper sticker taped to a stack of Hobby Lobby crosses, right before launching into a dissertation on how Catholic beliefs secretly align with his donor's policy agenda. He gently condescends to everyone with the real kicker. Some of the church's views don't map onto politics at all. Translation? They won't just say what I want them to say, and it's stressing me out. But don't worry, dear Americans. JD still got his eye on the mission, saving souls. But, just not from gun violence, poverty, or climate change, because that would be too political. Hey, if you enjoyed seeing JD Vance digging himself into political irrelevance, you're going to adore watching Candace Bergen show Vance doing the same.